100 years ago, Egypt was a completely different nation. In contrast to the bustling metropolis cities that have become synonymous with this now Arab nation that is dependent on its tourist-fueled economy. Back in 1925, however, we see an Egypt still steeped in the embers of ancient traditions, with the true descendants of the Kemetic culture still practicing an ancient lifestyle in the same way, 4,000 years after these practices were first etched in stone. In this beautiful footage captured by the Metropolitan Museum of Art, prior to the explosion of global interest in ancient Egypt and subsequent urbanization of Cairo and Alexandria, much of the ancient Egyptian culture was under the custody of those indigenous southernmost Egyptians.
Typical villagers are these aging patriarchs. Although many generations removed, it is possible that the blood of the pharaoh still courses the veins of these dark-skinned natives of this land of antiquity.
Those black African Egyptians, who are today called the Nubian Egyptians, were in those days not restricted to Aswan. Modern Nubians state that in these times, the dark-skinned or black Egyptians never referred to themselves as Nubians. But sadly, much like the wider global melanated populations, they have had this label thrust upon them by those desperate to benefit from this modern economic caste system. Indeed, they remain distinct from the urbanized melting pot populations, their notable Africanity, which is expressed in their pastoralist cultural practices, and a local penchant for adorning themselves in gold. This was punctuated by their continuation of Nile Valley practices that weren't reflected by the non-Kemetic populations as one draws toward the Delta region and Alexandria. In this remarkable footage, captured nearly 1 century ago, you will observe the undeniable preservation and continuation of ancient Egyptian tradition by its indigenous African population, who are in modern times known as the Nubians. One of the most observable cultural differences between the ancient and modern Kemetic populations is the attire. More than just the influence of Islam, it seems the increasing desertification of the region has influenced the native Egyptians to lean towards a more Sahelian, Saharan dress code that is reflected in many native African Saharan dwelling groups. In fact, the native African Egyptians are almost indistinguishable from their nomadic African neighbors, the Tubu, who reside in Libya or Sudan, donning similar thobes and turbans as a means to manage their desert climate.